Welcome to Butterfield Backstage Banter, the BSP podcast where host Jessica DeMent is joined backstage by her guests to banter about theater at Butterfield in Gainesville, Texas.
Hello and welcome to Butterfield Backstage Banter. I am your host, Jessica DeMent, and today I am joined by Iridessa Lewis. Iridessa is our light design for the Wolves. Welcome, Iridessa.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be on this podcast.
Thank you for joining me. I'm very excited to have you. Before we start talking about the show, can you tell me a little bit about your theater background?
Yeah, so I'll go with the short version. It all starts, imagine this. A small church. Little me, 3 years old. I'm a sheep. We like sheep. We like sheep. We like sheep because sheep are what we are. That was my main stage break.
Hey.
And at 3 years old, I still remember it.
Well, something stuck. So.
Something stuck. I don't know what. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
And how did that get you here?
So from there, my dad owns a music store. So he's always been in the music industry, and he had this band called Ancient Twins or Old Farts. So I would go around and see what he was doing, and I was always there behind the scenes doing something, looking at the audio setup and all the different crazy stuff that goes into performing music shows, but I never got theater out of my head. It was always go back to theater. So I ended up pursuing that throughout my life and being on stage at first, actually. All throughout elementary school, I always got like lead roles, and then in middle school, I was like the UIL one-act person, and then I got to high school and I didn't get into a show, and I was like, whoa, what? But then I was like, okay, well, I still love theater. I'm not just going to sit by while a show happens. So where else can I do stuff? So that's where I started getting into painting and construction. And then from there, I started doing audio design and then lighting design and stage management and directing and fight choreography. And I checked every box I could. Props, scenery, everything. And then I was all like, okay, I'll go to college for this. So, which is actually where Allison and I met. Allison is the director. She and I met at Texas Wesleyan University, where we were both getting our degrees in theater. I got mine as a BFA in technical theater with an emphasis in stage management. And from there, I just started doing things like professionally, kind of right off the bat. Started doing like a lot of Aaron Gottrams. So those are like a really big thing that makes a lot of money. So,
yeah, hey, money helps.
Money does help. And then from there, I worked on the Winnie the Pooh tour, and from there I went on to Patty Pinkerton a Jam tour, and I toured around for a little bit, and then I came back here because I realized I didn't like driving every single day. Lots of hours.
Yeah, that is a lot of hours and can be very tiring for sure.
So I was a stage manager for that, and then I came back here to Texas, and I worked at Inspire Event Technologies, and I was a professional lighting designer for them. So that was really cool because I got to do a lot of really big events. And now I'm more so doing theater as a hobby.
Like most of us in community theater.
Yes. So yeah, I'm just back to the community theater, which I'm still having to like readjust because I'm like going from really big to small has been a huge transition for me, but it's been really fun because it's challenging myself to do a lot more with a little, because I've learned so much, but I also had a lot more resources. So having less resources but still having these big visions in my head it's been really fun to do that challenge.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
imagine so. I imagine that there's some satisfaction that comes with having to figure out those challenges and work around them and get those big visions to work with a small set of tools.
Absolutely. That's it's one of the charms of community theater, in my opinion, because we are not made of money.
Yeah, no, we are not.
So, and unfortunately, technology is very expensive, and for doing a lot of theater things, theater is expensive.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people don't understand is to get to a really beautiful place, you have to work with what you get. And that's one of my favorite challenges, especially working in a brand new space, because I've been playing in the same spaces for a very long time, and I finally was like nudged to branch out. And it's actually been really enjoyable. I thought I would be more scared to do it, but I'm really glad I did do it. So
yeah, it's community theater is very rewarding, I think, because there's a lot, obviously theater in general is very magical. Everything that has to go into it to just kind of create that small world on stage and everything that goes behind it. But I feel like there's that extra element of magic with community theater because, like you were saying, we're not made of money. We can't just be like, oh, we need this to happen, so here, let's throw a big fat paycheck at it. Sometimes we're like, okay, we need this to happen, and here's where we are. How do we get there? And that creativity and the teamwork and the dedication just really increases that magic, in my opinion.
It really does, because you can't just think inside the box. You have to really be an outside of the box thinker. And I think that's where like design is my favorite portion, is because I have to think through all these problems that can be solved in different ways. There's not a real right answer, and there's not really a right answer with theater in general. There's different ways to play characters. There's different ways to light a set. There's different ways to, there's like rules to follow, but
yeah,
you don't have to.
That's fair. There's more like general guidelines than hard and fast rules. Yeah.
I think that's fun to play with because we always get, at least in my experience of life, is everyone has these hard and fast rules you always have to follow. But when you get into theater, you can just step back and breathe. You don't have that pressure of having to do something a certain way or having to be perfect.
Yeah.
Because it's live.
Yeah. Theater definitely kind of provides that room for humanity.
I think we all need some more humanity.
Absolutely. I think that's the understatement of the century right there. Oh, goodness. Can you talk a little bit about what role a lighting designer does within the show?
Right. So the way that I personally see lighting designers as is we are not the main focus, at least in these kind of shows. Because when you've got a straight play like this, you want the story to tell itself. You don't want to get distracted. So you have to somehow find the way to still create your art, but not distract from the other art that's being there. So you have to be very collaborative and very subtle. But you're also lighting the set.
Yeah. You have to be subtle, but you're also doing a very obvious job.
Exactly. So a lot of things that I play with are very small adjustments, very well-timed, meticulous, little differences that you probably won't tell. And that's the point. It's all about subtlety to tell the emotion and to emphasize what the words are saying while you're previewing the show. So it's a really good nuance to kind of find and work with. And I really like finding that balance of like helping, but not overbearing.
Yeah. That's a very important balance to find in shows because kind of like you were saying, it's the lighting needs to enhance the story, not overtake it, but also at the same time, like if you're not doing enough to enhance, then in a way you're actually taking away from the show. So finding that sweet spot where I'm not taking away from the show, but I'm also not taking over the show. We're really just coming along. I've never done any lighting design myself. I actually worked in the light booth for the last show that we did, Second to Last Chance Ladies League. It was my first time ever doing anything like tech that wasn't, like costumes or helping with sets or anything. And it was very simple. I think I had like 8 light cues and 2 spotlights. So very simple, very direct, but it still just gave me such an appreciation for what actually goes into that. I think a lot of actors have probably a lot of audience members don't really put that much thought and effort. Usually, you go through and it's like, okay, well now it's tech week and now we suddenly have all our lighting cues and everything and it crams through and then it's done. And I've never really considered all that much of what's going on in the booth. So it was very eye-opening to me. And I think too, for our audience members, they just get the fruits of the labor. They don't see the labor. And that's even more so with like lighting and other tech areas where you're really just seeing the lights. You're not even seeing the person controlling the lights because they have to be behind the stage. You still see the actors who've put in the work and have to memorize the things and change their costumes, but you're not seeing the lighting or, the sound people who are actually, up there frivolously, you're not frivolously, but like, oh no, I got to touch this and I got to do that. And I've got to, hitting all those light cues and making sure that they're not taking away from the story.
Yeah. It's a good balance. And once you find it, I always say the way I know I found it, and I always say that this is what makes me know that I've done a good job. Oh, I just hit my mic. I'm so sorry. Is that if by the end and the audience is just saying that's a good show, I've done my job. Because if they're not saying those lights are really cool, I didn't do my job.
Yeah, that's fair. That is very true, because then they're focusing on the lights, which they're not supposed to be focusing on.
So it's very much a shadow role. Which is ironic. But you kind of are playing with that like analogy of your lighting, but there's also got to be some sort of shadow element.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a really interesting way of putting it. I'd never considered that before. It's very apropos.
Yeah, I think about this a lot.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, I mean, it has been your career, so I would hope you put some thought into it.
I would hope so too.
I mean, I know there are people out there just, going through careers, not putting much thought into it, but it's good that you have, especially since your career is, more of an artistic endeavor, and it really does need that sort of thought and feeling put into it, so it's not just robotic.
Yeah, something that just popped into my head is having art as your career is very difficult.
I imagine.
You're being judged and given this monetary value for art. And that's a really weird thing to kind of like wrestle with.
Yeah. Like, especially because art is usually so much driven by passion. And so when you're having your passion monetized, especially if somebody's like, yeah, your passion's not worth that much to me. And you're like, but it means a lot to me.
That was where my biggest struggle was when I was doing art and making money from it. It was like, and then I have the little nag in your head that's always like, are you really worth it?
Maybe you're not worth it. Maybe you're asking too much. Yeah.
Maybe they're paying you too much, even though they're already paying you $5 less an hour than you should be. Like,
but maybe it's still too much. Maybe you deserve even less. Yeah. Oh my gracious. Well, on that note, have you found any unique challenges in preparing for the Wolves?
So the Wolves is in the round, which has been talked about past on the podcast, but lighting in the round is very difficult.
I imagine.
You have to have dark spots. If you don't have the space that we are in, I would ideally like a good 25 lights. I'm dealing with 10.
Wow.
So which is a challenge, but it's been fun, and I I scurried on a plot, because we don't have like a CAD file, so I drew the theater on and then highlighted my areas with all my lines. So it was the most scuffed setup I've done in a while. But and then I handed that over, and Devin put everything up, and I walked in and I was like, wait, everything's already ready? I was coming to do that.
Yeah.
So that was fantastic.
Yeah, Devin's wonderful.
Oh yeah, he's been so great to work with. Even though today was the first day we got to meet,
Yeah.
but it was fantastic. So a lot of the issue has just been oh, I've got a dead space here. It'll look fine.
Yeah.
Let's see their face. There's just some shadows on it.
That's fair. I definitely feel like the In the Round thing has created a lot of interesting challenges for everyone who's been involved in the production of this show.
Round theater is the hardest, in my opinion, to perform in. It adds a whole new perspective. There's not just this fourth wall break, because you are in the show as an audience member. You're not just sitting there watching, you are in the show.
We're on stage, basically, yes.
And so it's also nice I like to audience watch during shows when I'm running light boards and stuff. And it's fun to see in the round. I've noticed audience get a little more engaged because they're so close and they have that one-on-one and they have that human connection that live theater really can bring to people. Yeah. And so I think that would be really good with what this show is.
I think so too. I'm so excited for this
I am so excited for this show. When Allison showed me this show, I was all like, fine, I guess I'll design for you. The most loving way, because I can never just accept everything Allison says to me, because I have to put up a little bit of a fight.
Fair. What encouragement or advice would you give to someone who's interested in lighting design, either just casually through the theater or even looking more at a career level of it?
I'd say go in, learn the methods. There's a lot of different lighting methods, and you can find books. I recommend books, not the internet. The internet does not have the best content for this kind of practice. So I suggest going to a library and getting lighting books on different methods of how to do it. And there's so many different ways. So you could go down a whole rabbit hole doing that, but just find a few you like and really take to those, and then do that. Just do it, because that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
Find a theater, find a photography space that has lights that you can rent out. If you're wanting to make this something that you really want to do, someone will have lights at some point.
Yeah.
Even with I started with my phone camera and gels. I would literally put gels in front of my phone camera to change lighting when I used to do YouTube videos with my littlest pet shop.
That's great.
I mean, that's just, it's so easy. You could do it anywhere. It's so accessible, and learning it is readily available. I've always gone to public libraries and just done the research there, and then just apply yourself to Sorry, words are hard sometimes.
I totally understand.
I always get stuck in the creative side of the process, where I get too caught up in my own brain and my own thinking. And I think that a lot of artists do that even before they even start learning the art. And I know I did that several times. But I think if you just go in there with the expectation of you're not going to be good at it, but it's going to bring you fun and enjoyment, and you're going to get good at it because you're doing it. And the only way to get good at something is to do it. So I think it's a good thing to remind yourself, don't be so hard on yourself. at least in my experience, a lot of people in theater are very hard on themselves.
Yes, it can be. It's important to remember to give ourselves that grace, and remember that we too are human and, aren't always perfect and fabulous every single.
I mean, I am, but
yeah, I mean, some of us are, but
it took me a while to get here. What can I say?
It takes a lot of practice. To wrap up, can you tell our audience why you think they definitely shouldn't miss this show?
They definitely shouldn't miss this show?
Yeah, they shouldn't miss it. Yeah.
Okay. How to make sure I got the...
Yes.
All right. You definitely shouldn't miss this show because this show is real. Like, a lot of theater has a hint of reality and then is lived in fantasy. This show is full reality, lived in reality, and you are brought into it as well. And that's rare to find. And it's beautiful when it's done right. And I think we've done it right. And I think that's why everyone should see this show.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, y'all can get your tickets online at butterfieldstage.org, or you can call our box office. All the details will be in the information box below. Thank you so much, Iridessa, for joining me. I really appreciate it. I think the conversation was very enlightening.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed my time.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for the work that you've done on The Wolves. I look forward to seeing it. And thank y'all for watching today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this video with all your friends and get those tickets while you still have a chance. Thank you so much for joining us and have a great day. We'll see y'all at the theater. Bye.
Better subscribe. Do it. Do it right
now. Thank you for joining us. For more information, please visit butterfieldstage.org.